After the examiners are satisfied questioning the candidate, then we're going to close the official part of the examination and we will take questions from the audience. Once the audience is satisfied, then we're going to ask you to wait outside and the two examiners and the chair will have a short discussion and we will invite you back in and tell you the outcome of the Ph.D. oral, and if we have any instructions for CAR, then we will do that. So, show us your teaching skills, sir.
Today we speak about learner-centric course delivery in the online environment. I am Carl Christopher, Washington, Beckford.
Yes, sir.
As an outline, we will address the background, spend a bit of time on the literature review, then we'll go into the research methodology, then we'll talk about what we call these preliminary solutions towards the ideal online learning experience. Then we dive fully into the online learner-centric, the ONICEN approach, then we have the conclusion. So then it's just time now to dive fully in the background. Higher education institutions, HEIs, embrace learning management systems, LMSs, to enhance teaching learning. Now, quite a few researchers indicate or confirm that concerning knowledge transfer, there are questions whether the greater burden rests with the learner or the teacher. Well, it's also said that as the population within a batch of learners increases, there's an increasing tendency away from the optimal level of learning. Still, other researchers say that differences between the learners and the teacher's style, or we could call them strategies, suggest really various rates of learning, and in the overall batch of learning, also a non-optimal level of learning. We use that to then mention to you what we are using, or what we have used as a summary of the problem. HEIs attempt to move from the fully traditional teaching learning that itself does not provide learning at the highest level for each learner. That is, and they move from this to the use of the online environments. Now, amidst the move, course delivery remains static as one option, becomes more learner-centric, or even become less learner-centric, thereby resulting at times in what we call loss of learning, delay in learning, and or non-optimal learning. Now, the result obtained is primarily due to the current online technology. Yes, how it is that how it seems to favor certain types of courses and in fact certain types of learning styles. We use that to then upfront just mention what we'll be speaking about today. We call this just pulling out a few of the summary of the results. First, let me say that you'll see an approach that allows HEIs to select a SCORM-compliant LMS and an integrated development environment, ideally, yes, towards the seamless integration of knowledge transfer. We also mentioned to you this ontology of learning mechanism inventory. Likewise, the results show that the offering of learner-centric course delivery using the online learner-centric tool, or by a teaching learning style mechanism, we found that there was in excess of 55% choosing the system assigned VARC learning object. VARC there being visual, auditory, reading, kinesthetic. So in excess of 55% chose that assigned object, and then in excess of 85% commended the tool for effective course delivery, not just towards their learning, but towards their enhanced learning, suggest an extra push. From that, then we mentioned then the 6 objectives, which you could call it the drivers of the work. 1, ascertain whether learning management systems provide similar benefits to all types of courses. 2, propose a solution towards teaching tool-based or practical-based courses. And 3, perform this analysis of learner-centric versus teacher-centric course delivery as provided with the learning management systems. And then 4, yes, the 4th objective, develop an ontology of teaching learning styles or types with the aim of finding some commonality or primitives working, underlying these styles. 5 is to develop an interoperable online learning tool that allows for diagnostic assessments and a learner course path. I will tell you more about that. And the 6th and final objective is to describe any identified assessment tool gap between the online and the face-to-face modes of delivery. Having mentioned this, then it's just time to then dive fully into literature review. Now we'll just pull out a small portion, just enough for us to then dive into the other sections. So first we mentioned that we pulled out the theories of relevance. Theories dealing with the learning styles or learning mechanisms or approaches based on the researchers calling it different names. Really? John and Carver say that learning styles are really ways of learning presumed to allow the individuals to learn best. Further, a number of learning style instruments have been examined, and so we've mentioned some here: Fleming and Baum's VARC model, we've mentioned Cobb and Cobb experiential learning model and the learning style inventory, and there are still others. There's Gardner multiple intelligences and others. We'll just pull out some for this dialogue today. And previously, really, the thought was that there were three learning styles: VAC, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. But the more recent work suggests that there are more than three. Fleming and Baum's work, in fact, says 4, and Gardner's work says 7, and there's Cobb and Cobb up to 9, and so forth. And then Dare and Dunn's work now speaks about this teaching style being a contributing factor to the level of learning. We also mentioned that Whistle's and Setter's work suggests this coin of this optimal level of learning. Really, the optimal level of learning is the highest level of learning achievable in a given time and nature of the uptake function. Now for us, the nature of the uptake function is really speaking about including the learner, the learning environment, and the learning style. Now, learners in a particular batch are really governed by a specific path of learning, and that path of learning really is carved out by the teacher. Yes, in the teacher's expertise and experience. Well said. No further, a human teacher is not necessarily provided with the resources, say time and compensation or training to ensure really that all avid learners are at their optimal level of learning, given that finite time, 12 or 13 weeks in which this course must be delivered. Mentioning these two sections, or these sections, as always just mentioned from the literature review, so we can spend time and dive into the other sections. So now it's time to look at the research methodology. Now, front we mentioned that we're using mixed methods, partly, yes, including both the qualitative and the quantitative. Necessarily, we have included 3 research methodologies. One being work system theory, the second being proof of principle, and the third being DSR, or design science research, specifically with the instantiation as being this artifact, the design science knowledge artifact, and we'll talk more about that. Now, from the work system theory, we've put it out dealing with the work system framework and the work system life cycle model because it has an emphasis on organizations, and included within that is the idea of these customers, which for us will be our learners. Speaking about the products and services, the processes, the participants. Participants here would be our teachers and the information, yes, and technology and the environment and so on. But also, from design science research, we're using their instantiation as out. Now we're taking it from the process steps of awareness of problems through to conclusion. Yes, the whole gamut. Now, we've also pulled out now specifically the idea of the area concerning evaluations, using Hebner et al. Work and Peffers et al. Work and Priest here, where they speak really how we could use evaluation and how the evaluation could be done. And that's important to us because then we hear things like there's the ex ante and ex post, and so you'll see how we use it. Having mentioned this, then we just want to then show you that the 6 objectives in terms of which methodology will be used for just to work with each. Upfront we mentioned that DSR, design science research, is used for all 6, but you'll see where the other 2 are mentioned. Firstly, objectives 1 and 6, previously mentioned, we are using design science research specifically with the process step being awareness of problem, and the output is a proposal. Then, 1 and 6 was mentioned. 2, 3, and 4, again we're using design science research with the process step being suggestion. The output there, what we'll mention, is a tentative design. Therefore, the only one not mentioned of the 6 is objective number 5, which is to develop an interoperable online learning tool that allows for diagnostic assessments of the learners and the teachers. And for this, we're really using all 3. For work system theory, yes, we're providing from work system theory what we call this discussion as suggested by the work. Then for proof of principle, yes, this concept implementation. And then from design science research, as I mentioned, the whole gamut, yes, suggestion, development, and evaluation. And there the output really tend to design, yes, the knowledge artifact, performance measures, and results. Having therefore mentioned the research methodology, it's just time to dive into what we call then these preliminary solutions towards the ideal online learning experience. What are we talking about? Well, to look at that, we looked at really 4 types of courses. Firstly, theory courses. Secondly, tool-based courses. Then mathematical courses and practical courses. Now the study included 2 programs with 43 courses across 3 faculty groups. Further, all courses were offered in parallel to the face-to-face mode of delivery. So they were offered in both forms, online and face-to-face. We found many things, but we found some things that really stood out for us. And because the time is just about 40-45 minutes, really, we have pulled out this one area just to show you the intricacy of what we found. Let's look at this diagram, this figure 1. Looking at, for instance, the comparison of general course delivery methods employed, where there was this encouragement of group discussion. Now, if you look at the graph on the left, it seems to suggest that the average really for all courses is about 80%, really saying that, yes, when we look at all the courses, this encouragement for group discussion, 80% of the courses pretty much was using this method, this part of course delivery. But then if you consider 80%, maybe plus or minus 15 or 20%, you can imagine looking somewhat like that. Then we get something standing out for us. That really all except one particular type really falls outside of that fluctuation, we could say, or yes, standard deviation from that called mean. Here we're seeing that the usage level for the tool-based courses is somewhat lower than the others. And this and other things we found suggest some deeper work in these tool-based courses. Now we pull out one particular tool-based course. Say we were teaching programming, trying to do that online. And we were looking at teaching programming online. There's this need for a tool for this integrated development environment. We call it IDE. So an IDE is oftentimes employed. No, really. There is still the need for seamless integration, and so you still have the need for the learning management system. But then there's also the need for this IDE, the tool really, to assist with the learning. But then there's a need to balance the 2 needs. The needs for the LMS and the need for the IDE. Using set theory, we say, let U be the universal set. Let L be the set of all features of the learning environment. Let's call them L1, L2, and so on. And let B the set of all features of the development environment. Let's call them D1, D2, and so on. We're suggesting that in this diagram, really, there are 3 possibilities. First, there could be a partial overlap. Let's call it figure 2A. There could be no overlap, figure 2B. And of course, total overlap. The third one pretty much is really where you could say the Cisco Academy really works, where there's Canvas. Let's look back at this first one for this partial overlap. You could imagine that L minus D there highlighted is suggesting the learning features in the learning environment but unique to the learning environment. You could also imagine that D minus L are those features unique to the development environment. And pretty much therefore, the symmetric difference, which is the union of L minus D and D minus L, is really suggesting those features unique to the two environments. And then the intersection is really saying somehow its interface and we are able to find these features common to both environments. Well, we are suggesting, having examined all three options really, that the ideal environment is what we're seeing in 2A, where we indeed are showing or have an environment where the uniqueness in the functionalities of both environments is maintained, but yet where there can be interface that is done to ensure we also have this seamless integration of knowledge transfer. That's important. That's all we mentioned from the preliminary solution, so that we have time to dive fully into this online learner-centric approach, Olicent approach. What is Olicent? Up front we mentioned that we're going to talk about it in 3 sections. We talk about it in the theories and standards of the Olicent approach to course delivery. Then we talk about the components of the tool, the online learner-centric tool based on the approach. Then we tell you some of the results, the evaluations and results. Olicent is a pull-based learner style demand approach where teaching methods are triggered by the learning styles with an aim towards optimality in learning by shifting upward the equilibrium point of the teaching learning process. I'm aware that some of these terms will come alive to us and we dive fully into the Olicent approach. Now, Olicent does not have to use a tool. And in fact, just using the approach, we could decide that we're just going to use the approach to enhance learning. But Olicent, we believe, in fact, learning course delivery is more enhanced if we actually, in fact, it's actually more efficient if we indeed use the tool. So Olicent, the approach, employs a tool for learner-centric course delivery in the online environment. The tool may be integrated with the learning management system for enhanced course administration. That's Olicent. Let's look therefore at the various aspects. Firstly, these theories and standards. The first one we pull out is the Olicent and graph theory. In a teaching learning unit, say a course, we imagine that there are teachers and there are learners. And there are these sets of teaching styles, learning styles, and what we call a teaching learning style. Well, a teaching learning style is really what we call this match. Yes, a match really between the teaching style and the learning style. So we say there that it's really a teaching style that provides greatest learning for or matches a particular learning style and vice versa. Then we say, let G be a directed bipartite graph with disjoint vertices T and L, where T is a set of teaching styles, T1 to Tm, and L is a set of learning styles, L1 to Ln. And so the edges really are directed from T to L. We consider 4 possibilities. 1, where there's complete matching and surjectivity. We say complete because we're finding here where each teaching style itself in this 2A, and so this is 3A, actually has a match, has a mapping. But then, surjectivity is also considered because we have each element in the range having a pre-mapping. Well, one could say yes, but if this is also bijective, I would say yes. But for what we're going to show you further, we're considering the complete, which also includes maximum matching and the surjectivity. The second option really is figure 3B, where we have maximal matching. In this case, maximal because we have the maximum number of matches possible, even where this teaching style exists within final match. But once again, we have surjectivity, where in fact, all the learning styles actually have a pre-mapping. The other possibilities are mentioned, where we have in fact this complete matching, but then we have non-surjectivity. And the last one is where we have neither complete nor maximal, and this is not even surjective. Let us look back at 3A and 3B, where we indeed will first find a way to offer as much matches from the teaching styles. And then Where that has been done, we will then do an analysis of the learning style to see what exists and ensure that a pre-mapping exists. In other words, even if it's missing, we are going to then offer that teaching style somehow. Could we ask the teacher to do that? Maybe it's a bit much. But then we're suggesting that the optimal learning is existing between 3A and 3B. Causing us now to coin here that optimal learning occurs where there's a maximal matching for G with all elements of L, which was the range there, having a pre-mapping, and we call it maximal matching with surjectivity. So we have therefore mentioned Olsen graph theory. Let's now look at Olsen and the push-based model, pulling work from Loudon and Loudon. Where we speak about there is this push-based approach, yes, a build to stock, where it is supplier, or in this case, teacher-driven. The other side of the coin really is being pull-based or demand-driven. Speaking about being customer-led, which would be then in our case the learner. We're suggesting that ideally, as we're talking about being learner-centric, then we would want this to be pull-based or being learner-driven, where we identify not just the teaching styles, but that we identify these learning styles and cause those to trigger the events for the course material to be offered. Yes. So we use Cope and Cope work, which says that there is consideration for a comprehensive grouping of learning styles which combines the three initially accepted styles of VNK, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. That's all we put time to then look at Olsen with the supply-demand theory, using Pindix and Rubinfield's work, which speaks about this market mechanism really. Speaking about then having a supply curve and a demand curve and this equilibrium point. The supply curve is said that is really how much the producer or teachers in our case are available, if we want to use the word available, to offer at various prices or costs. And cost here could be even opportunity cost. It's really saying how much is a teacher willing to expend, willing to give up in a particular batch of learning to offer this course. And that is suggested to be an upward curve. You'll soon see it on the next slide. But then, the demand curve is really telling us how much the consumers, in this case we're calling those the learners, are willing to acquire at these costs. Again, suggesting cost not just being only monetary, could be, what really is a student willing to give up to then acquire this learning? Is he or she to get it from the class scenario? Do they have to go and find from some other source? Really? And the work suggests that there is this equilibrium point in which the two primarily operate in each course. Now, we're suggesting that we've found a way really to shift or to change the curve, both the supply curve and the demand curve. Because we're telling them to offer more teaching styles to match the learning style. And so the potential benefits really is a lessening of the gap between teaching and learning style within this batch of learners. Further, an increase in the level and speed of learning is another benefit we are saying due to an upward movement of the teaching learning equilibrium. Let's say from point A to B, as shown here, where we're seeing that as teaching styles increase, it's expected a level of learning ought to increase. It's expected, thereby being an upward curve. Further, that as learning styles increase and thereby possibly finding additional learning styles or some learning styles not having a matching with the minute number of teachers, then is expected to have a downward curve, suggesting an equilibrium point of, say, A. Our work says, for every portion we attempt to find out what exists and to offer additional teaching styles, thereby changing both the teaching curve and the learning curve and moving the equilibrium point upward. That's the idea. That is what we're speaking about. Now further, we just mentioned just one other theory or standard, dealing with web-based e-learning. Using this ADL's work, speaking about SCORM, shareable content object reference model, really, and so it are. Well, the tool is designed to be SCORM 2004 4th edition compliant. I will tell you why. With some considerations. Now, SCORM itself has 3 parts. There is the runtime environment, then there's the CAM, the content aggregation model, there's the SM, which is the sequencing and navigation. And various categories are in each. We said, for this to be most efficient, we want to ensure that the metadata category will store the teaching learning styles relevant to the object. That way, for each object, we not only just know what the object is not matching to just an objective, but indeed we'll also know maybe which learning styles maybe would favor this one or will actually enhance the learning more. Further, the sequencing rules category will store these workflow of the teaching learning style, learning objects. In other words, these learning objects that we'll talk about further in some workflow. And of course, there are others. For instance, the completion threshold control we mentioned is mandatory. Well, it really only exists in 2004 4th edition of SCORM. Other versions do not have it. And so, yes, we're saying where companies use the earlier version, OLICENT will still work, but just working less efficiently, just most efficient if we indeed are using 2004 4th edition, which actually has the completion threshold control. We will actually capture where the students are at a particular time, how much time they can spend on a particular learning object, so we can therefore decide what next to offer to the student. All right, so we mentioned these theories and standards. Let's now look at the components of the online learner-centric tool. Well, OLICENT, the online learner-centric tool, spelled there, OLICENT, a bit differently. It's based on the OLICENT approach. Pretty much you could say the same letters, much like your internet and internet, we spell the capital I and common I has two different meanings. Well, we have the OLICENT tool, which is based on the OLICENT approach. It's designed to interface with a SCORM-compliant LMS. And for course delivery and administration is still managed by the LMS, yes. But the LMS is enhanced by the learner-centric delivery provided through OLICENT. So we're suggesting that there's an interfacing between the learner-centric tool and the learning management system. There are 4 components. There's diagnostic analysis, there's repository and workflow setup, there's learning administration, there's assessment and evaluation. Let's dive looking at diagnostic analysis. Really, the processes are to set up or to allow setup of a learning style inventory and then to provide some diagnostic assessment to each teacher and learner. By doing that, that component is able to also suggest maybe possible group members of similarity or dissimilarity for each learner. It can also inform the human teacher of the learning style makeup of the class. So what we found is that before the teaching learning exercise even begins, the teacher is indeed informed of the existing deficiencies between what is desired and what exists. Because the teacher would know of his or her own styles, would know of the style makeup of the class, and therefore know what exists. Can therefore move into component 2. But we'll tell you some more about component 1. The model looks like this. 2 major processes: set up learning style inventory and then perform diagnostic assessment. Really, we also want to show you that one of the outputs is these preferred or practiced strategies or dominant or existing determined learning style of the learner. That's important because you're going to see how it's actually used more so in component number 3. Let's study more. The tool is designed to allow for any learning style mechanism that has measurable notations. Now, various LSIs may be stored for usage. The learning styles are really classified based on the VARC content. VARC, there being visual, auditory, reading, and kinesthetic, and are used really as reference to determine which learning object we call as a best fit for the particular styles. Learning style indexes are what we use really as the basis throughout OLICENT. And so the terms, the codes, the notations of specific learning style instrument are really translated to these learning style indexes and are used as the basis. Such that we allow the learning style inventory, the rules, to be just entered by the user as just straight text. And so we parse this text, and then in the background we move from that parse data to the actual formulas. So for instance, a user could enter open bracket Q5 plus Q13 plus Q21 plus Q29 and so on. And what the system does, it passes this and makes some assumptions. It says, this learning style instrument has 37 or more questions. We will administer all questions to the user. Then we'll use the value obtained or the answer chosen for question 5 and so on. Question 5 added to question 13 up to question 37. We'll multiply that times 2, that total times 2, and then the value we get, we look within some range that matches a particular learning style. That's telling us about the dominant style and other learning style and so on. We found that this was good to have, but not just this. We use that to then be able to identify what we call a CF, a compatibility factor. Well, by analysis of student learning styles, this CF is a compatibility factor. The algorithm we developed really just has 4 parts. To determine the main user compatibility factor, and initialize the selection arrays for similarity, then determine the other user compatibility factors, and then just generate the list as per compatibility ratio. The formula really, CF, is a summation. It's a summation from I equal 1 to max LSPRI, where max LSPRI is really a constant. Well, in our system, it's a variable, meaning it can be changed. But to every institution, they may consider it as a constant because that max LSPRI is really saying the maximum number of records, really, or learning style records are being stored. And really, in our research, they consistently, the learning style inventory used about 3. Yeah. But for us, it could be changed. That's important to note because it therefore means that as I is increasing, this now becomes a decreasing ratio. Therefore, putting the higher value on the dominant style, we then look at that with a difference between the major and the minor values. Then, important here is this TLS score I, which really is a Boolean, a value, 0 or 1, truth or no truth, which is then matched back to the number of visual or kinesthetic elements that are being employed. We're able to do this, and as we go through, we get this tied down to some compatibility factor that is actually used to determine, yes, similarity or dissimilarity between users. Let's dive then into the section for the component for repository and workflow setup. Sections: receive and update learning objects of different types for single unit of learning. Then allow some editing of these objects, specifically because we want to also add the learning style entry onto these objects, and then set up the course learner path. That course learner path is a designated workflow of how the learning objects are ordered for delivery of the course content. And then it is designed to work with really any SCORM compliant repository, learning object repository. You don't have to use one from Unicent. Others can be used, provided we can also edit and add on the learning style component. To tell you more, the object really, the process really looks like this, where yes, of course, there is a repository, and more importantly, this set of learning style course path is where we're storing the actual learning object workflow matching to each learning style. And that's being stored for a particular course. Why is it important? The learning objects are targeted for general back features. Once again, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. The course learning object workflow is set up by the course designer or teacher, but yet may be updated. That workflow itself will be updated. Yes, as the system learns of the new norm or learns of the norms about the learners, thereby allowing the system to be more efficient as it is used. Yes. So we have the course designer or teacher will allow to set a course path update factor. Now, this factor really is really saying what level or what factor should I consider before allowing the system to make these changes. Example, let's suppose the factor is set to be 75 or 75%. It's really saying where we see learners varying from the path set by the teacher. And 75% of the learners of a particular style which move from that, move and choose another path. And there is consistency in that new path. I call it consistency in disparity, because they would have left the initial path and then chosen another path. And then it says, if this is set, and based on the course path automatic update, if it's set to be true, so automatic update is actually set to be true, then the system itself will actually just make the change and then just inform the course guide or teacher. As opposed to, otherwise, if this is set to be false, then it will just inform the designer and allow him or her to actually make that change. And so a design document is produced to describe the learning objects to be created with priority values. That's done to compensate for each teaching learning style match and the unmatched learning style. So let's look now at component number 3, learning administration. And so here, we're generating a learner course path, which really is a set of teaching learning style learning objects designated by the workflow that was set up by the teacher in repository and workflow, component number 2. But it's doing this in view of what it learned about the learner from the data's analysis in terms of what learning style. It is therefore deciding based on the flow and the particular learning style which objects to actually select and offer to this learner. And so it really, as it does that, it learns, yes, the teaching learning style learning objects and paths that are favored by a specific type of learners. Then it will also enhance, as I mentioned, the learner course path in real time based on the acquired knowledge. And so the model really looks like this, where there are 3 major processes. Maybe most importantly is generating the path, delivering it, then where it learns new norms, it enhances the course path, thereby updating the course learning object workflow. We really do not delete or get rid of the teachers or the course designers workflow. We just move it in a dormant state and then have a new path, yes, with new workflow set up, and then the other learners of that style which comes on, they'll be administered the new workflow. At all times, we're capturing for each learner their own learning object workflow. We mentioned that because all it says provides a teaching learning style learning objects based on the workflow, yes, and where the learner is in the scope of learning the course content. As I mentioned, the learner may, however, choose to view or put another path. The path of learning objects, yes, the duration, the completion percentage, all these things really is what then really serve as a source of data to determine whether an alert should be generated for the course designer or teacher. Yes, it's also doing this, the source of data that allows the system to enhance the learner path for a particular learning style based on if the teacher had selected automatic update. Now, the entire work is defined formally using alloy. But for this, we'll pull out a small section from learning administration, just showing you that we have a signature called course offering, which really is a period, each period having some courses. Then we have an abstract signature, which is learning object workflow. If you notice here, learning object workflow is really a set of or a sequence of learning objects. The course learning object workflow, yes, is a one-to-one relation between teach learning style, and so each learning style matched to just one learning object workflow. And likewise for the learning object workflow, rather than we're using the learner's ID to match to the actual workflow that you may select. Why don't we show you that? Because then the model looks like this, or the diagram really looks like this. Not sure you could read it, so we'll pull out sections for you just to see. Like the bottom right section will allow for you to see that, of course, a course has teachers and learners. The learners have some chosen learning style, dominant learning style, and existing learning style. Why is that important? Because if we're to look at the top right section, then of course the course is titled course offering. And then the course learning object workflow, which are all tied to a course, has these learning object workflows. The learner may indeed walk the path of the learning object workflow designed by the course designer, or may choose a unique one. Therefore, we can look at the bottom left section, which then shows you that this learning object workflow is really just this set of these learning objects. Notice from the IDs, and then it's pulling them from the learning object repository. And that's all we'll mention concerning our formal model. Let's then look at the last component, assessment and evaluation, which really provides these formative and summative assessments in consideration of each learner's teaching learning style. And so we'll mention here, it looks very similar to learning administration, except that there's not this enhancing of the path we do not allow that section of the learner deciding a new assessment having not done so well on one. All right, so let's talk about the evaluation and results. In the implementation instance, we really wanted to use Code and Code, but that was not available without the expenditure of significant finances. So we used another. We used a site which really speaks about these 9 learning styles, and then we used across 4 instances. A secondary level IT MOOC, really, of 10 students, but here we had some or most of the students really had already done IT and they were just doing this with the tool. Then we have a software engineering course, first level, of 35 plus students, a secondary level quantitative course, ComSci course, and a third level IS course. Really, instances 3 and 4 were just really useful to integrate it with Moodle just to see how it will operate, and so we had success in that. What did we find? One of the first results we found is this teaching learning style match. We identified that except for the focus group. In other words, for the focus group, we tried and we tried and tried. But really, no available, no patterns were really found. But yet, in the true class environments where learners were there attempting to learn, we found patterns. And so in fact, we found that there was a 38% match in one case with the preferred teaching style of the main instructor, and then even increasing to 55% if you include all instructors, like also the tutors. But we notice here, there were some people called the kinesthetic and tactile people who themselves were no matches with either the preferred or practice styles of any of the instructors. When we look more at that, it therefore suggested that this 38% were able to find their matches with the dominant style of the instructor. And if you're including the tutorials or with the tutor, these also had matches. But yet we had other learners who were not necessarily finding their style in the immediate form of learning and maybe were forced to find some other means. Let's look at another result, where we identified that learners with compatibility and non-compatibility were identified even amidst difference in dominant styles. Where, for instance, we had this learning style being social individual. This person being social individual, yet the system was able to identify it, believed with some 80% accuracy, believed with oral expressiveness, because it's looking deeper in maybe looking at the visual numerical matches and so forth. And so we also identified the similar and the similarity. We also found where patterns of path selection were identified as the classes grew, in other words, for the larger courses. We also did the chosen learning path variances met the minimum threshold criteria of 75% for the learner path enhancement. For instance, if you look here, exactly 0%. Not one of these individuals even once chose the path that was set up by the teacher or course designer. They consistently varied from the path. And so, what happened in those cases is that where we saw consistency, I call it in the disparity, then that's when now the system will automatically update itself or inform the course designer and move on. Last we mentioned concerning the results really is that based on the review by the adolescent users, 93% recognize the learning object of different formats and use opportunity to view other formats. 58% actually chose the system assigned the VARC learning object. 90% believe that adolescents deliver the course effectively. And then, only because we asked the question in the negative, we'll give you the answer in the negative. 7% believe that in no way, shape, or form, adolescents provided any improvement in their learning performance. None. Well, good things at 93%. Well, 30% though were undecided whether it was high in methodology. That could be concerning, but we're encouraged that 50% agreed that all they said was above other tools they said in terms of their content delivery. We're not saying with them Moodle or so and so, but in terms of the content delivery, where it's supposed to work with an LMS, work with a Moodle, Blackboard, and so forth. All right. So then we pull out here 3 benefits: allowing codifying of learning style instruments, identifying disparity in teaching and learning, and aiding face-to-face teacher in knowing the percentage of students with the greatest benefit in course delivery, and a reshaping of the course path for learning style and learning preferences. And 2 drawbacks we've pulled out is additional work to provide these learning objects to be now VARC, of the VARC standard, visual, auditory, reading, kinesthetic. And then the other drawback or limitation really is that learning configuration takes place during course delivery, and therefore provide fewer benefits to the earlier course participant. Well, it will assist maybe those in the next batch and so on, but then as persons go on, the earlier learners, their knowledge, their experience really is used to assist the other learners. So then let us just conclude. First, we mention these 4 things. The types of courses and learners experience different levels of benefit from LMS usage. For programming courses, yes, let's pull out one of the tool-based courses. Due to the need for this integrated development environment, which is normally disjointed from the LMS, is a disjoint learning process. All this considers teaching approaches or strategies, really, and learning mechanisms or styles with an aim of ensuring that learner-centric course delivery may be administered. Instantiations of the proof of concept, the tool, Olicen, have shown benefits to teachers and learners. And so the only thing we'll mention after this is then looking at the objectives and the results and our contribution, we believe, to theory and to practice. For instance, for objective number 1, we believe that there's a contribution to theory here, where in view of theory, tool-based, mathematical and practical courses, current LMSs provide greater benefit to theory courses. Further, the most distinctive course type based on our research is tool-based and may be most affected by changes to the LMSs. Therefore, other persons could do work in that. And for assessments and other activities, LMS usage was almost non-existent for practical courses. From objective number 2, again a contribution to theory, where the ideal environment for teaching programming online is one where the uniqueness where the functionalities of the 2 environments is maintained. An institution would benefit from a tool which serves as an interface between the environments and provides primarily the functionalities missing from the categories common to the integrated learning environment and the development specific to virtual learning. Let's look at the contribution related to objective number 3. For here, the contribution to theory is that LMSs, with great effort, I dare say, great effort, may cater to most learning styles. In fact, just for the play, I tried to do it with Moodle, with great effort. However, LMSs favor different levels a minimal number of learning styles. And in view of learning styles, LMSs may be used in the ways described because of the limitation of the LMS, or even some lack of standard really, to ensure learner-centric course delivery. For objective number 4, speaking about its ontology. In the context of all teaching and learning styles, the relation for teaching learning styles is driven by objective function. In any teaching learning, we're saying that optimal learning occurs amidst maximal matching with subjectivity. We're able to identify at least one equivalence class, where we identify that 6 learning theories, including Cole's work and Fleming and Baum's work, yes, all of learning theories were of the same equivalence class, and some others were identified. Concerning objective number 5, but here we have a contribution both to theory and to practice. Well, the theory is the actual Olicen approach, which says it's established where course delivery is recommended by integrating learning styles in order to achieve this maximal matching with the teaching strategies. And then to practice, the tool was developed as an interoperable tool that diagnoses teaching and learning styles within a batch of learners, then determines the best fit learning course path. Olicen identified striking teaching, learners of new learning style paths, may be integrated with a SCORM-compliant LMS. And concerning the 6th and final objective, contribution to theory here is that in view of a blended learning environment, the method of assessment that was deemed fit by the teacher was not available via the LMS. The method of assessment therefore employed was then similar. They're just trying to then model or to use the same face-to-face method of assessment to make it in the LMS. Assessments are recommended to be learner-centric by applying the teaching delivery style employed within course delivery as a best fit for assessments This demands the creation of multiple versions for an assessment per learning style. All we mentioned then is what we think are three possible ways of future work. Use with MOOCs, massive open online courses, where we could work, we're believing with open universities, pure play universities, or even if we can click and mortar, so you could expand it to others. We're also seeing where, and we've started working in that, we're also seeing where we could expand and consider the usage and mixed learning with special needs or disabilities. And that's maybe done to identify the possibility of what we call seeing at the same level, and look at e-learning for the visually impaired. Also, the idea of this learning mechanism aggregation framework, LMA framework, may be examined as the aggregation of learning assessment instruments. The framework may be used to determine the transference of knowledge based on the determined best fit learning mechanisms. We have been able to get some publications of the work, and these are our references. Questions?
Dr. Tarkowski, do you have any questions for the candidates?
I don't see the environment right now. I just see car, which is fine. And first of all, thank you so much. This was a wonderful presentation. This was very interesting. I've been doing online teaching for many years. This is learning styles is a very old subject. It's nothing new. It's been around for 1960s, but to turn around this sort of classic topic and integrate it in an LMS environment is quite interesting what you've done. First, let me ask you, is this sort of open question, or is it just a question part for the committee members?
Just for the committee members.
Just for the committee, yeah. Okay. So my question to you is, I wonder if you could sort of describe us how this what you call OSN tool look like in practice. So is this, I mean, you call it tool, but is it more like an approach, a collection of learning objects, depository, that are integrated within an LMS environment by matching teaching and learning styles of the students and the teachers. So how does this look like? Can you just a little bit describe to me in an online environment?
Right, so understand in the actual environment, so the actual proof of concept, really we provided the mechanism where a user could decide to set up or add these learning objects. So they may decide that they have a particular PowerPoint slide that they want to add as one of these learning objects. Now we invite them to not just add an object, not just add this PowerPoint, which they may add straight, maybe, PowerPoint allows you to save it as a straight PDF, as a static file, or maybe set up so you can just see the screens. But then we invite them to add additional things in the object itself, thereby storing it as different forms, whether visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. So in our own work, what we didn't just use either the straight PDF static for the assisting the reading learners, the R, right? We also then created such that our PowerPoint would then allow some interaction with the user, therefore tying, for instance, your K, your kinesthetic. Now further, what we do, the system, or what we did, the system then, based on the workflow which I will set up, it says, this particular learner is of style, let's say, kinesthetic. It then goes from the repository, searches if there is a kinesthetic learning object matching for that which was set up for the course from the course designer. If it is found, it actually just offers that to the first one and then provide in a small section the other possibilities. However, if it does not find that object matching, all it said makes a best guess. It really then says, all right, this is a kinetic learner. Let me look for a next best object to match what the course designer has said should be offered at this point in time. And then pretty much that's it. It's offering these objects, matching to the workflows by the course designer, and in fact also determining the best object to offer based on the learning style.
So my next question is it you who designed all these learning objectives? And was it a team of people? Because I can imagine this was quite the labor-intensive process to develop all these, different functions that go into the courses.
This cough is not by chance. We thought it important that based on understanding already being defined, the approach. Now, after we had already itemized and documented and formally described Odyssey, we thought then we would just get a master student to then do the actual development, but that did not work so well. Now, clearly, because the work must be done, then somebody had to step in. Clearly, that had to be me. So yes, I went through and actually did the full development, but only because I had to.
Right. Well, thank you. This is just a little clarification at the start, and I don't want to dominate, so I'll just wait you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you too. Thank you. Good day.
Good day to you, sir.
Good presentation. So I should try to match you. So, what is it? Will you consider it to be a decision support system? Or could it be considered to be a decision support system in which both teachers and administrators are targeted and users?
Not bad. I've never thought of it as a DSS. However, just as you asked the question, because the first component itself is this diagnostic analysis, and we're therefore learning about the teacher or teachers and the learners, we believe that it could indeed work as a DSS or decision support system where it could be assisted in some decision making, because up front, the teacher using just component one could decide not even to use the other components. Maybe they would want to decide, all right, here are the deficiencies, and then they could decide how else they may want to then offer the learning just to ensure that gets fit. So I must admit I didn't think of it before, but the question suggests and I accept that it could be used as a DSS.
Okay. So since you accept that and your work doesn't end today, you're going to do more work on that. After you graduate, after you graduate, you're going to do more work. Then you talked about learning styles and teaching styles.
Yes.
If you consider it as a decision support system, or can be extended to be a decision support system, then for your future work, you should also consider decision styles.
Interesting.
Of administrators.
All right.
Okay. So now, what is the relationship of this work in areas of computing such as knowledge management, natural language processing, and other areas of computer science and computing?
Right. Let's deal with, okay, so let's take it in order. Concerning with knowledge management. And so here it is. We're going to manage this knowledge, and so we're trying to have in this space maybe information coming in, and then we're getting enough to then make some maybe decisions, new knowledge, and so forth. We believe, I believe, that then putting this work together, it could serve somewhat. But I am not yet seeing maybe the importance or the total relevance yet to KMS or with knowledge management systems or just knowledge management at this time. I'm really seeing up front the one with natural language processing. In fact, I must admit that in my own research group, which is software engineering, we also have some persons also looking at NLP, natural language processing, and I'm thinking whether this can be said, but I believe so. Already, we have started some work together in terms of how we see how the two can be coming together. I must admit that we're thinking, yes, so it is. We are thinking of how it is that understanding can be expanded. And the idea that one, for instance, you remember that I mentioned the idea of this parsing the data and then looking at that and then making these rules. But then for the natural processing, we're also thinking maybe how it is that we could have, maybe we will just maybe enter some form of command somewhere, and then we see how it could be used. Now, what's important is that because the second component of unisent itself is allowing these objects to be created, what happens is that it is not domain specific. In other words, we're seeing where, in fact, however, a course designer or teacher would want to use it in a particular domain, we're thinking that it actually could be used. And so we're thinking that for certainly using that aspect, it could be integrated or could be used alongside, and we're seeing relevance in NLP. I thought you mentioned three though. You mentioned knowledge management.
The other one was looking for other.
Or other. Then certainly, let's say, well, the work we believe is fully in software engineering based on certainly the use of the model. In fact, we're thinking that even the model itself could be worked on and expanded further for just expansion of its own use. And then we're thinking that the also mentions there.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, if you use this over several semesters,
Right.
in several courses, it's going to be connecting data and behavior of both students and teachers. All right?
Right.
Which is data which can then be quote unquote mined. I mean, that is what Facebook has been doing. So you're collecting data which can search in another repository. So then you need to consider security and confidentiality and so on. So I came from far away, so I can ask more than one question.
Oh, okay, it's all right.
So now,
Yes.
you have made it clear the contributions
Yes.
that seem to be contribution to education.
Okay.
What may not be clear to the average person, and what are the theoretical contributions to the body of scientific knowledge in the field of computer science? So I think you do know, because you want to accept the PhD in computer science. And I say, what is your contribution? You can say.
All right, good. So, of course, we also mentioned this contribution to practice. But I mentioned firstly the theory side.
Computer science and education.
Right. Now, we believe that, for instance, when we look at how the model is set up or defined formally using, say, a lawyer, and the formal specification there is itself suggesting how maybe other models could be expanded on. So it is. We define it formally, and so we're saying by having it defined this way, in terms of looking at signatures and the relation to signatures and signatures, we believe, say, on the computer science side, which of course, well, not really software engineering, maybe a family of, right, which is the computer or the computing side. In that vein, we think that's important. Now we also consider, we believe, the risk model. The work here is defined or looked at using the various theories and standards. Now, I agree that some of the theory were from education. But then, when we look at some of the standards, for instance, the SCORM standard itself, though was designed by ADL to be one to ensure that various learning management systems be able to speak together.
No, your use of the body of knowledge from computer science is clear. I'm asking your contribution. Now your input to the body of knowledge.
Right.
That's the question I want you to understand. Not about your use.
Good. So in that case, my contribution to, I believe, to the computer science itself, one, when I think of, okay, all right, so I already mentioned the the modeling, and I think that's actually important, then I would think of another contribution to computer science. I believe for computer science, even though we will link to education, is that when we looked at how we're able to formally look at the approach using the ADDIE model, the ADDIE, we're thinking that that itself, the usage of it, is suggesting how other researchers in computer science would actually use that for other domains. So the idea is that it speaks to and maybe inform the computer scientists how it is that it could be used.
So you might want to actually provide some model of what you just said, and to make it clear what is that contribution.
Okay.
All right. The next 4 questions are short and they relate to really the education part. Is a student's learning style a fixed personality characteristic, or does it vary over time? And if it does vary, how does the science do that?
Right. So the research seems to suggest that indeed a student learning style or anybody's learning style may actually vary. So, built in Olicent is this parameter where it watches or captures which called period is the course being offered. An institution is indeed allowed to say, do not ever allow them to redo this assessment for their learning style. However, and so it's implemented. However, we have now set it up such that it is now for our instantiations, it is set up to allow for each period. Once the period changes, it forces each learner to be reassessed. That's because the researchers seem to be suggesting that the learning style could vary, and so therefore a particular style you had last semester could vary. Well, we're currently using it now per period, but it is such that an institution may even set it up to be per month or per year. But yet, yes, there's a factor that is there to be set, which is if this has been out of sync, in other words, out of period, then allow the learner to be reassessed.
So by that response, do you know see the connection to that management?
Yes, in fact, I must admit, from you spoke earlier, I said to myself up here, oh, did I miss that? Because yes, as the period goes on, the Olicent itself is learning, and as it learns, I can see how knowledgeable it is. So yes, I do.
Okay. So I must pick one question. Now, you have factors, one of which is intrinsic motivation. So I got a skin learning style like you, but I don't got an intrinsic motivation to do this stuff. I might deal with extrinsic motivation, but not intrinsic. Do you think your model should be extended to consider factors such as intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation? You have a theory called a theory of planned behavior, which deals with human behavior. And your system is a human technology system. You're interested in exploring additional factors?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, the final of the future work, we spoke about this LME, this learning mechanism application framework. Because, well, life has it that, we learn after time. And so, because of the, you could say, length of mission, to now, since then, we have started additional work. Because indeed, the learning mechanism aggregation framework is in fact looking at that. Olicent was really looking at styles and therefore forgetting, for instance, Maslow's theory, suggesting that there's other ways, and so forgetting things like there is a self-actualization. And so already we've begun to look at other learning theories as to how we could identify these what we call equivalence classes. Therefore, here it is, if somebody is, yes, motivated intrinsically, maybe another one in extreme. Yes, outside, otherwise, but the idea here is that by looking at the addition framework, we are now able to then find out if there are other things that could be contributing to the increasing level of learning or the lowering of that. I must admit, we haven't yet considered it being a merger with Olicent. We haven't yet. So the idea of further the work, we're not sure yet, but already I've said we've started with this learning education framework because that we see the need. Maybe it could be that they're merged, or it is that they themselves could be a separate tool which totally is contributing to our knowing about this learner.
Good. All right. So now, I've got one question. Figure 14, you have a model. And it has something that's called the course learning style matching. Course learning style matching, which is an input, right?
Yes.
I think I did, but it's in
Okay. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Because I'm going to pull out some for this.
Yeah, of course.
For this one. That's fine.
Of course. So now, it seems to me that Paulson, the quality of what Paulson produces
Yes.
is heavily impacted by the quality of his course learning style matching.
Right.
And quality, I mean accuracy, currency, credibility.
Right.
So, how would your model be assessing those quality characteristics of this matching learning style? Sorry, course learning style matching.
So let's talk about that.
I'll listen to you.
Yes. We are of the view, or I'm of the view, that indeed we would really love if teachers would in fact set up these various work flows, one per learning style. That way, ideally, in that course learning workflow, the course learning style matching will operate efficiently. In other words, it will know from the workflow and indeed will matching that to a learning style. However, we are fully aware, I'm fully aware, being a lecturer myself, that we may not necessarily, as I said, are given the resources and time or other resources to spend all that time to set up these workflows.
Right.
So, the benefit of Olicent is this, as mentioned.
One of the benefits, right?
One of the benefits, right, is that a teacher could set up a single, all right, I don't want to say a not too well off teacher. A teacher without time to set up a single workflow. And then, as learners go on and they're given this single workflow, this single path, but yet, as they're seeing benefits of other learning objects, and they begin to use those, the system is learning different norms. What then the system does is begin to create these other workflows. Advise even the very teacher that, look here, we have to set up one workflow for all learning styles. But yet the system, based on the learners usage, would then go ahead and create these other workflows. And we're thinking that is good because then what we have is that even though the teacher up front did not bother to think out how exactly to have these learning style matches, or yes, having the learning style matching to his own style and so forth, the system, once the user begins to use it and begin to see other objects, and in fact, in actuality, that's what we found. We had it, okay, because I just wanted to test it. And so with one course, though one of small courses, all we did was just set up one path. And then as the learners found the others, we found the system created itself, or created it's on the workflows, and we thought that was good. Because then the teacher without that much time can choose to set up one workflow. The problem though, as I mentioned, as a limitation, it means that the upfront, the earlier learners will not get the benefit of that. But then as learners begin to use the system, then the other learners will benefit. And I think
So last question. So as Odysseus gets better and better, and it's learning more and more and more and more, if this like you're going to be suicide, like no more professors needed, no more
third question. No, don't. But I've been asked that question.
Yeah.
You say that Odysseus will get so efficient
Well, you
that there is no need for the teacher. I should, so I think of it. Think of it. The teacher is still required to do two things. One, set up these learning objects. And I truly believe if we get teachers to then major on that aspect, as well as then set up these workflows, what we're finding that the teachers could actually be allowed at the time to then do the things that will therefore enhance for further learning. In other words, I'm saying maybe the experience also the lecturer is that there's some other things I'd like to do in my own course that enhance the course. But every week has 7 days. Every day has 24 hours. I therefore have to make decisions as to what I can. I want to do this, but I can't do it because of time. We are saying that I'm still seeing where the teachers could have a need because they then will be perfecting almost like these objects and they're attempting to perfect this workflow even while what is said is actually assisting creating the workflow.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any other questions for Carl?
Just one other question mixed with a comment. Moodle, one of my favorite LMS programs. It was created by a computer science major from Australia. You know the story, just like yourself, who was interested in education, and he was into social constructivism, and I wanted to see how to apply those ideas in a learning management system, and then Moodle came out from that dissertation. So from yours, I see that this learning style, learning and teaching styles idea move beyond of what we know, and you came up a way to match them and integrate them through the learning objects. But moving forward, we talk about some new educational concepts like MOOCs, open learning environments, informal learning environments, engagement, student engagement in online learning environments. So I wonder this tool you called Olescent is capable of being integrated in, let's say, let's say a new tool like Slack. Could it be integrated in a Slack? Could it be integrated in a self-study environment? Does it have to be controlled by the university and the teacher? And I'm not one of those individuals who is scared of teachers' role. Teachers have still many roles to come. But do you think this tool sort of leads itself to be integrated with these new concepts of learning, new tools that are out there beyond LMS, such as Slack or MOOCs, or I don't know if you know or familiar with a tool like ELK, and what do you say?
All right, so in its current form, Olescent, the tool, is relatively SCORM compliant with 2004, 4th edition. Moodle itself is compliant only, I believe, to 2002, or yes, comes from the 2. And so in fact,
Right.
and I'm fully aware that, for instance, Blackboard, through Rusty's software, it itself has built in the whole thing of the SCORM compliance of higher versions. And so Blackboard is willing to pay Rusty software. But of course, and I must admit, I sent off a mail even to the Moodle developers, and so they really responded to me and told me, all right, Moodle is at this version. That's where we're at, and they do not foresee. Why have I said that? Because even to do that, the integration I mentioned, which I mentioned 2 instantiations with Moodle, just to do that, we had to decide to then lose some of the efficiency of Odyssey, but then we got it to work with Moodle. Why have I mentioned all that? Because I'm thinking, maybe concerning Slack, I must admit, I'm not aware if Slack is SCORM compliant. But even without the SCORM compliance, because of the Odyssey approach, we said an approach. So we're saying that we see how the idea of diagnostic analysis, knowing your learners, working with this repository, could in fact be integrated somewhat with the other tools, L, Slack, and so forth. So we're seeing where that could be done. I have really did not do any background work looking at how to integrate with those tools. I really look though at the learning management system, the known ones, Sakai, Canvas, and so forth, right? But I can see how they too could also benefit, but I'll have to do deeper work to find out what's involved in actually getting those, whether they're SCORM compliant or so, or in what other, because it could be that other fields that exist in those systems could in fact store what we're using as these SCORM categories. So it could be.
So technical issues aside, conceptually, do you think this tool could be used in a sort of informal learning environment?
I'm not just thinking that, I am actually hoping that. I am truly, yes, I'm truly hoping that with the use of this work, that learner-centered course delivery can take off in the online environment. I'm truly hoping that, yes, we'll truly get down that environment to not just be offering course material, but that learners, because many times, I must admit, learners will attend classes, and then when they don't see what truly assists with their knowledge, then they're forced to go out and use YouTube and wherever else. We are saying the teacher, in his wisdom, if they truly get all the objects necessary matching to the various styles, then we keep the learner fully integrated and therefore enhancing the amount of learning, as opposed to their having to spend other time having these other ways of getting the knowledge. So I'm hoping that it will be used.
Okay, all right, thank you, Colin.
All right.
So we're going to close the official part of the examination and open the floor for questions. Does anybody have any question? Yes, Daniel?
Thank you. One quick question, Carl. In your models, you mapped teaching styles to learning styles on a one-to-one basis. And it's a binary match. Either matches or it doesn't. Why is that better than, for example, putting a kind of weighted match, or perhaps one particular teaching style may have different degrees of value or utility or engagement, so you might want to offtake with different learning styles. Wouldn't that have kind of different impact on what the notion of optimality was?
So let me see if I get your question. So you're saying, apart from this one-to-one match, right? You're saying whether is there benefit in doing this maybe weighting of match, right? Weighting.
I'm coming from the point of view right now, if you imagine a simple face-to-face environment, or even if somebody has put some text online, they would have delivered it in a particular way. So they're going to be engaging with whoever reads or listens or watches in the particular style that they've chosen to deliver it to. And to varying extents, you do get some uptake, even though a particular learner might actually prefer the phrase rather than hearing it, but hearing it in a lecture, they still learn something. So the point is that it's not a zero uptake. It didn't have a zero effect. That teaching style didn't match the learning style, but the interaction between the two isn't zero.
Not bad.
In your model, it seems like it would be represented as zero.
All right. And not bad. Because in fact, you're right. That, meaning the proposal is not bad. Meaning that, yes, in fact, in our work, we're actually representing like this one-to-one. But then we're considering, by looking deeper in the work, the learning mechanism evaluation framework, but we look there, and Cole's work, that is suggesting maybe that these factors exist. The good thing is, the system is so designed that it's already, remember where we have this, the CF, the compatibility factor? There, we can actually store those as percentages. In other words, so it will attempt then to capture not just straight one-to-one, but then suggesting maybe. For instance, because Cole is actually saying that even though we're for a dominant style, it is true to say that maybe they would benefit 7% from the visual, but maybe 30% from the so-and-so, and so we're already at the design. In the design, it's possible, and so we're actually already thinking of how we could actually bring in that. But what will be important is that the initial analysis of the learner would attempt to get that knowledge. In other words, when we find out whether is this a straight reading person or whether they're benefiting this way. That way, we're offering the course, it will actually make that assessment in the delivery. So, very well, thank you.
Yeah, so just a follow-up on that.
Yes.
If I may. Is that, so how does that impact your algorithms for measuring and monitoring optimality? Because I believe, I might be wrong on this, but the algorithm for matching, just a simple matching, that's slightly different from if you have weighted matches, because now you're going to essentially have in more or less a complete bypass as that, because every node being connected, rather one, you just have a different weight on each one, as opposed to simply present or not present. So I don't know how you model it. If you model it on the basis of it being a binary graph, that would mean you need to be changing it. If you've done something else, that's the question really. How robust is what we've done to that extension, or is that something that's really a matter of future work, as opposed to something that you consider and dismiss or deliberately avoid?
Yes. So as the implementation is for the future work. Remember that what we're saying is that we're trying to literally change the curve, suggesting that they're operating at this equilibrium point. What we're really suggesting that is that the teacher really maybe would love to offer as many styles as possible. The problem is, in principle, while he's offering a particular style, maybe there are some other students being bored. And when he switches to that style, some others. So the aim really is that we're just trying to see how we can offer more of the matching teaching styles. No, hear this. So even where is a factored matching or some percentage matching, if we indeed are, from the analysis, knowing what's involved, in the background is already designed that way, what we're doing now is just trying to offer the various teaching styles. Remember, I mentioned in answering one of the questions that the tool goes through and search for what you think is a best fit. The best fit here, based on the diagram shown, they are one-to-one. However, we could see where, if it finds a learner that is, say, 70% of one style and 30%, and indeed, it actually found an object that had a greater match than the straight VAC or straight visual, it indeed would have found that as a better match. So we believe that the design is already there, even if that's not yet implemented. Okay.
Any other question?
I'm pleased. Could I have some easy questions now?
All right. I hear you speak on the natural language processing in terms of the learning of the user. Is there any other more obvious learning styles that you have analyzed with this tool that you plan to implement or have implemented?
Not to my knowledge. The real learning that the system is really doing, right, is just learning about the user and then making some analysis based on what it knew about the user and then enhancing itself. That really is the aspect where it's learning, and therefore developing itself. But I am always open. If you have some other thoughts, you can talk to me afterwards, and we will see how possible. But up front now, that's the only time.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Okay.
You can just
Hold on, stop it.